Hello and welcome to the second video of this series. We're talking here about Excel 2013. As we know, Excel is a spreadsheet. It's a very powerful application software. It's mainly used for number crunching, but that's not the only thing. You will see that we're going to be able to apply charting. As we all say, a picture worth 1,000 words, but a chart worth 1,000 numbers. And also we're going to do what if analysis, which is really something we should really appreciate spreadsheet for having that availability of using some of those fantastic features that it'll take us like long time if we want to do them manually. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and delete what I had in the previous time. As you notice, when I delete everything is going to be deleted except the format or the formatting of the cell. So I'm going to go ahead and cheat Excel a little bit by going to the formatting painter and copy this format and go ahead and click on the one with the yellow, and it will actually put it in the default type of format. As you notice, we're going to start with cell B2. This is column. Sometimes I make a mistake. Anything vertical is column, anything horizontal is row. We need to be aware of this. I'm doing with spreadsheet number 1. I could click on the right button and rename it, and I call it practice 1. Also, it's very helpful to have, when you have multiple sheets, to have their meaningful name for them. I'm going to also even tab the color, and I'm going to make it a green color for now. As you notice here, if I change the sheet, you will see that the color is green. I'm going to go back. Notice that I have already zoomed my view to over 200% in order for us to see. In the first video, we didn't really touch all the different features that we can have, but we're going to use them when we need them. The very first thing I want you to know that if I put a word, for example, May, and my intention here is to have or to keep track of the sale for 3 months for 4 employees. And in addition to the fact that Excel allows you to change your mind about certain values and automatically recalculate the formulas or the functions, as we will see, it also uses something very powerful in the lower right corner of every cell. If I put my cursor, it changes, as you notice, to a thin plus sign or thin cross. And if you notice that if I do drag this to the right, it's going to assist me in filling the data. Of course, May already been programmed in the application. If you go to File, go to Options, and if you go to the advanced one, as you will notice, if I scroll all the way down, you will notice in the Edit Custom List that May already been programmed here to have, for example, here May into 3 letters for the month. You could start the whole month. Of course, you could add your own list if you choose to do so, which is very easy to do so. But I don't want you to know it's nothing mysterious here. It's not magical. It's something built in Excel, which you can build your own list as well. I'm going to go ahead and say here name, and we're going to make up a few names here. I'm going to use the, let's say here Mo, and we're going to go ahead with Jack, and we're going to go ahead with Robert, and we're going to go ahead with Mary. And we're going to make 3 digits or 2 digit. I'm using the tab to move around, and we're going to go ahead and put 300 here, and we're going to just put that here. I'm making the number as I'm tabbing here. I just get the wrong. See, notice here I entered. Of course, we don't want the percentage. I'm going to go ahead and put it back into number. We will format it actually as a currency later, so don't worry about this. Okay, and we're going to go do this, and here we go. And let's go ahead and give this 324. If I select everything here, this is the range. Actually, it's a matrix. By its matrix is a table with 2 dimensions. I'm going to go ahead and put change it to the currency. So everything is really going well here. As you notice here, if I get bigger, smaller, where I'm not going to be able to see the width of the column in C, I could go ahead and select 3 of those together and click anywhere in between the division in order to format it. I mentioned that in the previous video, but I made a mistake by calling this a row. The row is always horizontal, the vertical is always the column. And here basically we have the data, and I'm going to go over 5 different ways of doing the calculation for adding the total for each employee. So let's go ahead and put that total. The very first way, I don't want you to use it in the real world because it's going to cause a problem. For example, most people who came from a calculator, they're going to actually code or write the actual value themselves by typing 890 plus 788 plus 300, which is going to actually work because this is going to calculate. This is a sophisticated calculator, but that's not what Excel is all about. Excel about, if I change this value to 900, and I should be able to see the changes that is going in the cell. Obviously it did not because I used the value as a constant. But if I do use the cell address, that means I'm using the value as a variable. Which means what? If the variable changes, the calculation inside the formula or the function is going to be changed. And that's really why we have spreadsheet, in my opinion, because that's the most important feature. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel every time or redo the whole worksheet like we did in the 70s or early times of counting, we can do it now without fearing that something is going to be not reflected. Everything is going to be reflected based on the change that we are going to do. So anyway, avoid that unless you want it to be coded as a constant. That's a different story. But if you expect any changes in the values in the cell included in the formula or the function, please make sure to use the cell address. The second way of doing the calculation for the total is to go ahead and click. Don't type, because we don't want to really make mistake. When we type, we make mistake. And plus this cell address plus this cell address. And if I click on that, it's going to give me really the right value. Of course, I don't have enough space, so I'm going to click on between the two columns in order to display or to give me as much spaces as I need to show the actual calculation. And notice here, if I go back to the 8, let's say 9T, immediately look here before I click on that, you notice that it's going to go ahead and change to 1978. It's very, very brilliant in how it does its own work. So this is the second way. Again, if I click on the cell that has the formula twice, I see the actual calculation that I type. Or if you like to see it here as well, you'll be able to see it in the formula bar. I like to see it here because it's bigger, but that's up to you. The third way, I'm going to delete this. And the third way really become, I'm going to go ahead and undo here just to show you that if I do B5 plus C5 plus D5 and I have like 100 of those values to be added, it will really take a long time to do it. So it's going to be very inefficient. So if this is good for, I mean, if you have 2 or 3, even 4 values, no big deal, you could use the formula. But what about using a function that does all the work for us? For example, knowing that the sum is one of the most used functions in Excel, I could go ahead and click on this and go to the ribbon, which is the home ribbon, as you notice, and click on AutoSum, which also have other very powerful functions that we use frequently, like the average, count, numbers, max, minimum, and of course, if we want to get more function, we could go directly from there and look them up. But I know AutoSum is the default one, so I'm going to click on it. Excel is smart, but it's not accurate all the time. So when I added here the sum function, as you notice, it did include the range from B5. As I said earlier, the colon should be pronounced as through D5. So this is the cell. The cell range, I mean the range of the cell that I need to include. It's correct, it's accurate, but as you'll notice later, it's not going to be really the selected range is going to be the accurate range. So make sure that you always select yourself the range inside the formula. Here we go. So you select that, even though I'm duplicating the effort here, but just to show you that you need to take one conscious moment of your time to make sure that the range that you wanted to include in the calculation is the right range. And this is the third way. As you notice, it's going to give me the same answer. It's very, very quick. And the fourth way is to go ahead and, of course, I'm going to delete this to do it. not all the functions are going to be available for us. So if you really need a function that is not available, you could go to the Rubin formulas. As you notice, of course, AutoSum and its sisters and brothers, or whatever you want to call them, available for us here. But maybe a function that you don't know the full name, or you really could not see it here, and you want to look up for it, so you could go ahead and search for it. Let's go ahead and search for sum, and I'm typing here sum, and I'm actually clicking on go. It gives me all the functions that actually start with the three-letter sum. There are a lot of powerful, or they have the word sum in it, or related to the sum function. Sum is one of the most powerful functions, but there are a lot very, very powerful functions like sum if and sum ifs. Hopefully we'll be able to record advanced videos in the future for this. Sum is what I need, and it gives you really a range that you need to include. Please notice that sometimes sum include not only ranges from one rows or one column, it could include a lot of rows and columns, it could include a lot of sheets, or maybe other workbooks, because the whole file is a book, so you could really add multiple values from different book as well. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and only select the range that is included in this, and I'll say okay, please show me that, and that's basically did exactly the same thing that we did in the previous 3 steps. So this is the fourth way, is to go ahead and search for the function, type it, look for it. If it's there, click on it and start to feed that sum by the range of the datas or the list of the datas. If you want to include range, by the way, before I forget, you could really put a different cell address separated by commas, and that will actually do the same exact thing, like adding all of those for you. And the fifth one, and once you use Excel for a while, you will not have a problem really remembering those functions. So you might like to use you don't want to take your hand out of the keyboards, you want to type the function. You start with sum, then you're going to go ahead and open parentheses, because all the function must have an open parentheses, and it's very highly recommended that you close it. If not, Excel will close it for you, but I always encourage my students to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit sum, hit the cell, and in order to confirm that's exactly what I want, and you get that exact result. So notice here, if I change this to 1000, it's going to change, and the rest is clear to you. So what about if I want to do the same thing for Jack, Robert, and Mary that I did already to Mo? And that is going to be very, very easy. Notice again, in the lower right corner, if I take the fill handle and drag it down, all the way down, all the way to Mary data, and I'm going to get all these calculations done in a matter of a second. What happens there, what happens is very powerful. It's really in the first range with B5 through D5. So what did the fill handle did? It adjusted the range from B5 to B6 through D6. So it was B5 through D5, now it's B6 through D6. And probably you guessed it here, if I clicked on the cell, you will notice that the range already adjusted to the next range, or in another word, it did actually adjust itself in relation to the next range. And I'm going to emphasize in relation, because later I'm going to name that approach to something has the root word relation in it. So we're going to go ahead and click in here also. You will see that the B7 changed to B8 and the D7 changed to D8. And notice what happens with the fill handle when I dragged it all the way down. It really made it very, very powerful. It did powerful work by adjusting the cell to the next adjacent range in relation to the next calculation, or in relation to the next range. We call that relative address. The relative address, meaning in relation to the calculation that we've done, we want to do the same thing in relation to the other range of data or cells. I'm going